NFL insider Jason Cole here on Tim and Sid. Good day, Jason.
Good day. What's going on?
Yeah, just we're still digesting what the hell that was at Ford Field yesterday. Are you?
It was awesome. It was great theater. I mean, it's is it coming of age of Matt Stafford, brilliant drive, great meltdown by the Cowboys, complete with Des Bryant going berserk. It's a little bit of everything in that one. I mean, Calvin Johnson, changing the way that we view wide receivers every single time he walks on the field and does another great thing.
Right.
It was really fun football, and that's sort of like it's modern football because it was like your typical kind of basketball on turf,
right?
Kind of game, and you love that, because here the Lions overcome 4 turnovers with 6 billion yards of total offense.
All right, here's the conversation that we had before we went to break. The segment before, I have been critical of Matt Stafford in the past because I think that he's been benefiting by having one of the greatest receivers that we have ever seen, and that he struggled in big games. Peter King used the coming of age. Several guys used coming of age. I'm not averse to evolving. Should I when it comes to Stafford?
Should you
evolve?
I would say evolve is the best term. Because I'm not sure. I don't think that you evolve I don't think that you come of age in a regular season game.
Right.
You can kind of look at it as an important turning point. Maybe we're 5 or 6 or 7 years down the line, and he's won a couple of Super Bowls after this, and he's playing with incredible confidence. Maybe we look back at this game and we say, yeah, that's when it all came together. I hate to do that at the moment, though, because I have this feeling that Matt Stafford, because of his accuracy issues and his sidearm motion and all those, kind of crazy way that he plays from week to week, that we could see the same old Matt Stafford, in 3 of the next, 9 games that they play, or 3 of the next 8 games that they play, and sit there and go, yeah, he got him to the playoffs, but didn't get him past the first round. Right. So what's really, really changed about him?
Jason, if I'm Cowboys defensive coordinator Monte Kiffin, I got hammered last night. Would you have?
You mean after the game?
No, like alcohol in my face, like just kind of drinking my blues away.
Yeah, you went and got the black label stuff, and you started
the good stuff.
The Johnny Walker, and
that's felt good about yourself. Scotchy Scotch.
And then you alternated with the red label as things got really bad.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the part of the problem is, they changed the safety late in the game. The kid's not ready for this. Look, sometimes the other team just does make some pretty good plays when you're a little bit shorthanded, and there's not a whole lot you can do. And then you get caught, the worst part of it is you get caught napping on that, the fake spike play. And that one really, really hurts. But I thought, Kiffin's defense did a pretty good job throughout the game. They gave up a lot of yards, and they're really banged up in the secondary, particularly at safety. But, they came up with 4 turnovers, and that should have been enough if the Cowboys' offense had just been a little bit more efficient.
It's funny because in the past I've put some things on Tony Romo before, and I look down at the fourth quarter statistics and see 3 of 4, 118 yards, 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and say, well, you can't possibly put it on Tony Romo in that fourth quarter. However, when you look at it, their offense could have stopped this from happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not to say Tony's all part of it. He didn't.
But a couple of first downs and that thing is over.
Right.
Right, and they weren't able to grind out the first downs, and they weren't able to do enough. Look, again, when you get 4 turnovers in a game against a defense like Detroit's, which is better than it was a year ago, but still not great, you shouldn't just have 30. You should have 40, and that goes on everybody in this one. And obviously, things weren't going right. Particularly, nothing was perfect for that offense, because if it was, Des Bryant would not have been, going Mount Vesuvius on the sidelines twice.
Okay, well let's go to that. Jason, do you think he is doing that if the storyline all week hadn't been he versus Calvin Johnson?
And Calvin Johnson.
Calvin Johnson's putting up a Tecmo Bowl day.
I think he was looking at the other side, and it's like one of those games where, there were a lot of games like that during Jordan's career where somebody would say, yeah, well, I could do what Jordan would do if they gave me all those shots. And then, Jordan would come in and score 50 and say, hey, go ahead, see if you can do it. And guys would get caught up in it, and they might score 25 or 30, but they couldn't do what Jordan was doing. So I saw that happen in the NBA time and time again. And so I think Des, because he's young and he's still immature, was probably looking going, this guy's putting up 200, 250, 300 yards, and I got 70. And I should be dominating this game against the corners that they have because A.J. Green just dominated their corners last week.
Right.
So I should be right there with these guys. And I'm sure that's in the back of his mind, and it's feeding his fury. And it's making him think that, oh, yeah, I'm just trying to fire the team up. But that stuff doesn't work. Getting into it with your quarterback and then your tight end and your defensive lineman, like that stuff just – all it does is creates a distraction, and it shows that your team is way too emotional, you're way too emotional, and you can't handle, the things that go with a really tough, hard-fought game.
Should they have gotten the ball a little more often?
I would always, if I had a star player like Des Bryant, I would probably be making sure he had 5 or 6 catches every single game. He's really, truly special. But sometimes, they roll a coverage to a guy, and it happens. Or Romo missed some passes early in that game. It's not. I don't think it was for lack of trying. It just didn't happen. And then meanwhile, Calvin's going crazy.
Right.
And it just kind of. I mean, that for the first touchdown Des Bryant caught was brilliant.
Right.
Up against the shoulder, one hand, amazing stuff. And it just seemed like a lot of other things overshadowed it, and some of it was Des was in the middle of it himself.
Right. I mean, Des took away from what was a pretty good game. 3 for 72 is not what he would consider a great game, but 2 of those are touchdowns. One of them is a great catch. I mean, he was having a fine game. But again, I think that when you spent the early part of the week saying, I'm just as good as Calvin Johnson, and he's putting up 329, like you just don't feel like you measure up, and you feel like, you put that pressure on yourself. And instead of saying, okay, look, we got to do whatever we can do to win this game, and you keep that level head, you lose control of yourself, and all of a sudden it goes sideways.
I wanted to give the boys credit for bouncing back from the heartbreak of Peyton versus Tony, winning 2 straight, and I think I mentioned it on our countdown to kickoff on Thursday afternoon. But how do we not look at this team at 4-4 and just say, same old Cowboys?
I don't know if you're looking for somebody to explain that to you. I am not that person. Okay, I don't know how you look at this game and don't just. I've been saying this for the last 4 years, and Cowboys fans are always come back at me and say, "Oh, you're just a Cowboys hater. You're just." No, I'm not a Cowboys hater. I think they have one of the most talented rosters in the NFL. But and I've said it 100 times. They are the most mentally weak team I have ever seen because I think that they get ahead of themselves so fast. They win back-to-back games against the Redskins and the Eagles, and they think, okay, we've got everything under control, we're good. And then they don't, okay? This is why, and Adam Schefter had this stat, I think it was before last week's game against Philadelphia, where he said over their previous 262 games, the Cowboys were 131 and 131. Well, 2 weeks later, they're 132 and 132. And that's just the state of the Cowboys, that despite all their greatness and their talent and everything else, they are a completely mediocre team.
Is there a bigger diss in the J. Cole vocabulary than this team is the most mentally weak team I have ever seen?
I think there are some, but there's very few that cut to the core of a team. I would be hard pressed off the top of my head to come up with one that's worse than that.
I would agree.
No, but I'm right there with you. Like if I gave someone the choice to call me either physically weak or mentally weak?
Take physically weak.
Oh,
every
because
time.
listen, this is what I was born with. I'm fine. This is how I roll. But you call me mentally weak, well, that just cuts to the core.
I'm just, it is what it is. What it is, and I've just observed this team for two. See, here's where I get with the Cowboys. It was a couple of weeks. It was after the game against Denver, where they lose 51-48, and the locker room is really silent. And Jerry Jones comes into the locker room to do his usual spiel in the middle of the locker room to address the media because he can't help himself but want to be surrounded by media members and talk. And he keeps telling them, "Oh, it was okay. We were right there." We're just like, it's like, Jerry, stop talking. It wasn't okay. It wasn't good to lose that game. And let that sink in with your players a little bit. Let your coach come in and tell them, "Hey, look, we just gave up 51, granted to a great team, and we just committed a blunderous interception at the end of the game, and these are things we got to fix." Okay, let your coach have a voice. Instead, you undercut everything that your coach is trying to accomplish by coming in and in front of all of your players telling them, "It's okay, we're on the right track." Well, that may be well and good, and your coach may say that depending on how he views the locker room, but let him do it. Because now anything that Jason Garrett tries to say after you said that goes in one ear and out the other. Because the players have just heard from the guy who writes the checks, it's all good.
Yeah.
So the owner runs in right before Garrett's about to speak. "Hey, guys, all good. Take it easy." Runs out.
Well said.
Right. Yeah, man. So like, how do you get better? Like, how do you take that loss and let it really, the stink of that loss really burn in your soul to the point that you never want to see that happen again? No, that's what you should be reacting to. That's what athletes, they love that stuff. That's what propels them on to greatness. And instead, they're getting an attaboy, it's okay, or everything's all right. No, it's not all right. You're too talented to let that happen. But that's the Cowboy way.
Well said, and that's why we have Jason Cole on. That's why you should follow him at Jason Phil Cole on Twitter. Thank you very much for joining us, as always.
No problem. Take care, guys.